would need. And so that's how that process is managed. And they have that list, if you will, through the Department of Public Health. And they kind of help with their geographical information systems in the EOC to split up those people and help us manage those pickups. They have, honestly, that's one of the very, very big hurdles in the past is getting enough wheelchair accessible vehicles, because we're throwing everything we've got resource-wise, to move them around the county. And then there's another resource challenge with getting people out of the county that have mobility issues. So they've called in a lot of state resources, and we're able to manage that process a lot more effectively last year, and it continues to be a challenge going forward, but they're pulling as much resources as they can, SEMA and GEMA, that is.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Erica, question.
Yes, sir.
You said it seems to be a challenge. What kind of efforts can CAT do to, I guess, mitigate against the challenge?
Well, to be honest, Jay, what our efforts are focused on is in the county. That's why we have, entities like SEMA and GEMA, because they're able to pool those state resources and help with that.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions from any board members? All right. I appreciate Ms. Erica for your presentation, Ms. Franklin, and we'll move on to our action calendar. Thank you again, Erica.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Is there any way for us to get that presentation emailed to us?
Yes, sir. I've already asked her to do that, but could we make sure, Ms. Molden, could we make sure that we follow up and make sure that presentation is emailed to us? Unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. We can definitely do that before the meeting ends.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving to our action item calendar. If you notice, we have 5 items. We added 2 items on, I guess, late Friday in reference to the COVID-19. What I would like to see us do is go into a consent agenda, which means that we can, if we have something we want to deliberate or have discussions on, we pull it off the agenda and we vote on the rest of the items. We're not going to do it today because we did not have pre-conversation about that, but I would like to see if us as a board moving forward into future months, will we move into a consent agenda where we can approve the items we do have agreement with, and those items we want to have discussions we can pull. So with that being stated, the first item is going to be the extension of the COVID-19 emergency measure. Is that going to be you, Bakar? I mean, Ms. Molden, or you, Mr. Brown? All right, Mr. Brown, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, thank you. The issue is to approve 1-month time extension for the emergency measures implemented to respond to the novel COVID-19 state of emergency declaration. During these difficult times, difficult times with COVID-19, CAT understands the importance of maintaining the appropriate level of public transportation. And as we see, the numbers seem to be on the uptick and not going the way we would like them to be. So, based on the guidance from the federal agencies and similar actions taken by other public transit agencies, staff developed and implemented an initial emergency response plan that included temporary fare suspension and temporary service reduction. CAT will continue to monitor, obviously, COVID-19 developments and provide appropriate level of bus, water, ferry, and CAT mobility services based on temporary service reduction. Excuse me. Mr. Lakak is asking me a question. Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, you have to bring Mr. Lakakis in the room with you. We got to continue this meeting going on, brother. Tell him we have to continue our meeting. Unmute yourself, Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir.
All right. Sorry for the interruption. Mr. Lakakis had some questions about the agenda packet, so he's going to sit here with me.
That's
So
fine.
he can be privy of it. So moving forward, as far as the impact on fare free, we will continue to go fare free. A tentative date is set for the end of August when we get the barriers in place, but we will still monitor, obviously, the COVID-19 situation in our county. And our goal has always been to keep the passengers and employees safe as we work our way through this pandemic. So moving forward, what we're asking the board to approve the extension of temporary fare-free and service reduction as hazard mitigation during the period from July 28th, 2020, today, to August 25th, 2020.
And August 25th is our next board meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Just clarifying for the recording. All right, Beverly is shaking her head saying yes, it is. So I mean, it is.
Double check, it is.
No problem, brother. Can I get a motion and a second on this?
I move to
Beverly,
approve.
you don't have to, Beverly, cut your thing off, Beverly. We can hear all the typewriter going. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Clinton.
I move to approve.
I got a first. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
And it's been probably moved and seconded by Dr. Robinson. All right. Are there any unreadiness to the situation? Any unreadiness? Without any unreadiness, can we go ahead and call for a vote? Vote. Roll call.
Yes, sir. Dr. O'Halloran?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Cody?
Yes.
Mr. Emister?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett? Mr. Leggett? Okay. Mr. Lakakis?
Yeah,
Is a yes or no, you approve the vote to extend the message. He says yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Ms. Odell?
Yes.
Go back to Dietrich. Go back to Dietrich.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Jones?
Yes, I agree with it. Yes.
Thank you. You have a unanimous vote, sir. Thank you.
All right. Moving to the second item on the action calendar, the extension of the CEO measure of authority.
Mr. Chairman, this item is to request board approval to extend the authorization for the CEO to implement additional hazard mitigation measures deemed necessary to respond to the novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. This is basically an extension of the same approval that the board has entertained for the last few months. As you know, this virus, things are changing daily, and it becomes necessary from time to time for the CEO to exercise certain authority to be able to protect the welfare of the agency employees and the public that we serve. And so I'm requesting consideration and approval of this item.
All right. The action item has been read. Can I get a motion to approve?
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
All right, Dr. Robinson approved. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Dietrich Cody, I'm gonna give Dietrich Cody the second on that. All right, any unreadiness or questions to that? Without hearing anything, can we do a roll call as far as the vote's
Yeah.
concerned?
Yes, sir. Dr. O'Halloran?
Yes.
Mr. Cody?
Yes.
Mr. Emister?
Yep.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Lakakis?
yeah,
Yes.
and a yes for right now, but I've got some other information that we should be not only how we've been doing it for a number of months right now, but
All right, Pete, that was time during discussion. If you, after the vote, we'll go ahead and entertain your conversation, okay, brother? All right, go ahead,
I have
continue with the motion.
Okay, I have a yes for Mr. Lakakis. Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Ms. Odell,
Yes.
and Chairman Jones.
Yes. And Mike, you can go ahead and let him finish his statement now.
You want to sit up here closer so they can hear you?
All right, Pete. What you had to tell us, brother?
What I'd like to say is we had for a number of times now where we were at the home or some other place that we were being listened to and then to do the voting. But we have a place on Oglethorpe Street where we have for a number of years is that we can see one another instead of always doing it like has been done here for a number of times. And with that, and so people that have special talks and other things, I think it's something that we ought to look at, that be on Oglethorpe Street, and that we can see each other and be able to make our decisions with whoever is in charge and whoever is giving out the information, or however you want to vote on being on Oglethorpe Street, like we had for a number of years, and we could see each other instead of, having it with the way it has been for a while.
All right. Thank you, Pete. We're for the time being, I think we need to reserve it into this form. I do miss seeing y'all as well as everybody else probably miss seeing everybody. I think that we put even a consideration that all our employees came well dressed to this Zoom today, and they're in their own fashion, their own way, they're at their own place. But everybody came here to have business, and I think what we need to think about is the safety of our organization in this respect. And right now we have 36 people on this call. I don't think there's any location that CAT currently is in charge of owns that we can hold 36 people. So I caution, I think that we need to reserve it and stay in this kind of platform for the time being. I do, and once again, Pete, I do agree. I wish we could see each other, but for the safety of our own organization, I think this is the kind of way we need to meet until the unforeseeable future. All right, brother. Dr. Robinson, you have the floor.
Well, I was just going to comment. I think what he was talking mostly about us as a board being in one place.
Okay.
We'll still have the same number of participants on Zoom, but we would actually be on Oglethorpe Street, just the 9-member board with social distancing.
Even with 9 people, I mean, if you give me, I mean, I guess you, Pete, y'all get with Ms. Malden. If y'all find a location where we can social distancing 6 feet away from each other, I mean, I have no problem. I still personally will be doing it via Zoom. I do it via Zoom with the county, and I know the county has more space. So I'm just, right now at this time, I'm not comfortable in meeting spaces, because I just think that if we should be social distancing, then I think we need to follow the protocol and do just that. I mean, but my thing is, as board members, if y'all feel that y'all want to go to the transit center and work it out with Ms. Malden, I mean, that is strictly on y'all. Y'all have just as right as I do. But as far as me and my well-being is concerned, I will be doing it via Zoom. All right. With that being stated, we're going to the third point. Action calendar, audio visual maintenance, contract renewal.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This request is to seek approval for a 3-year service contract for CAT's audio visual equipment with Stagefront CAT staff contacted 3 other vendors. None wanted to service existing equipment, so this is the best option that we could find. It's a 3-year service agreement for $6,800 per year and a total of $20,400 for the 3-year.
Thank you, David. Anybody want to approve the action item on the calendar?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Commissioner Stone has moved it and Dr. Robinson has seconded. Did you catch that, Beverly? All right, is there any discussion on the item?
I have one question, Commissioner.
Yes, ma'am.
Dave, are we comfortable with the life of the equipment? Is it in good shape? Don't anticipate any major issues within the next 3 years?
Actually, I had a little bit of a discomfort with 5-year-old equipment, but I reached out to Stagefront, and what they indicated was anything that actually breaks, they will replace. So I had them put that language in the contract, so it actually will allow us to have the equipment for 3 more years, unless we do something like break it or do something other than it just kind of wearing out. But if a screen just wears out, then this would actually, they would replace it. They would try to fix it, and if they can't fix it, they would replace it. So I became more comfortable with it once I had those discussions. And the contract that you have in your packet is the modified version. There's some language that makes it clear that they basically would have to fix it or replace it.
You got anything else, Dr. Robinson? All right, anybody else have any unreadiness or questions you want to ask?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dietrich Leggett. What was those prices again?
David?
It's a total contract value of $20,400. It equates to $6,800 per year. Just so you know, we wanted to go with the 3-year option because it gives us a 10% price break. If we just did 1 year, we would have to pay 10% more per year.
Okay.
All right, were there any other questions on readiness?
Yeah, I had one.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
We own the equipment or do we rent it?
We own the equipment.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, thank you.
Thank you, bro. Any other unreadiness? All right, calling for the vote. Go ahead and do a roll call, Beverly.
Okay, yes, sir. Dr. O'Halloran.
We unmute, yes.
Okay. Mr. Cody,
Yes.
Mr. Emister,
Yep.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Lakakis,
Well, I'm going to withhold for right now.
okay.
Withhold for right now.
Thank you, sir.
He's
Dr.
abstaining.
Robinson? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Stone,
Yes.
Ms. Odell,
Yes.
and Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion? Motion
mo-
carried.
The motion carried. Yes, sir.
All right. Our next point item is Infinity IT Support Service Contract Extension.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to extend the current IT contract that we have with Infinity. It's only an extension through November 30th, with the idea being give us time to look into our IT structure and needs and decide what path to take, especially with the new leadership under Ms. Malden. It will allow us to just kind of continue as we are, but give us the time to look at either procuring new services or personnel or whatever is deemed to be appropriate. So this extension would extend through November 30th. And what we did was take the approved budgeted amount of and come up with a contract not to exceed $32,977.41 per month.
Okay. All right. Is there any readiness? Can I get a motion to approve?
Hey, I got a question.
Before we go into question, we have to approve the motion, then we go into discussion.
Oh, I
Move to
make a
approve.
motion to approve.
I'll
All right.
second it.
All right, it's being properly moved by Commissioner Odell and seconded by Clint Edminster. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You go with your question.
Yes, does their contract include consulting on possible software, or is it just a hardware contract?
It includes software.
It does.
But they, so when you, I just don't want to answer incorrectly. When you say consultant on, do you mean as part of their monthly fee, or it has the ability within the contract to get consultation from them at an hourly rate?
That's a really good clarification, and I actually mean a composite of both. So when they are their monthly fee, does it include them looking at the environment and making recommendations or suggestions of what we could use to make work more efficient, or is it just maintenance?
It's more just maintenance for the monthly. You know, they may, on a smaller scale, if I contacted them, for instance, and said I need to have something that allows me to edit PDF, they would make a recommendation of Adobe Pro versus something else. But on a global scale, like what I think you're saying, no, it would be more of just it's maintenance. But then the contract does have a fee structure for hourly consultation type deal.
Okay, because one of my issues with maintenance agreements, and I don't know if it's something that we have to bring up with them or not, is that when they're maintaining our system and they're looking at it routinely, if they know something would help, I would expect them to say, hey, we could do this to make it better, without us having to instigate. And, you know, if they're going to be looking at the environment, then if they know something would help, I would want them to say, hey, this would help. So I don't know if that's just a conversation. It may just be a conversation with them. But
I think it's a conversation probably to have as we look at our new IT needs. Historically, that hasn't been what Infinity has been doing for us, but I think you're right. I think it's something to consider in our future needs, basically.
And Commissioner, would that be something you would want us to do as far as when we look into the contract 3 months down to, I guess, include some of that language you're talking about?
Yeah, because some companies will just leave you foundering and keep fixing a problem over and over again, instead of suggesting a resolution or an upgrade or a patch or something that would make it better. So I think for the well-being of the environment, they should want to say, hey, I can continue repairing this, but if we do this or do that, it could make it more efficient for you or make it better for you or reduce my continued time here repairing this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. I truly.
So I think that finding someone or asking someone to look at the environment on a continuous basis, so that because IT people know what would work better. That's just their field. So I would feel better knowing that they're not just patching something routinely when they could tell us something, if that's a possibility, without them being prompted to do so.
All right, Ms. Moreland, would you have something to lend to that?
I do, and thank you so much for your comment and your feedback, Commissioner Odell. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that's been saying. I just want to mention the reason why we're extending this for 3 months again is we are looking at having a centralized person to work with IT internally to kind of monitor that, to monitor the contract, to monitor the process, to monitor everything that's going on internally with IT so that we can manage costs and we can just overall manage the contract. I think right now we're in a position, unfortunately, where everything we have to call our contractor for, to be honest. And so I'm really trying to reduce the amount of time that we have to spend waiting on a contractor to come. I think it will help us be more efficient. It'll help us save cost, we believe, in the long run. which is why we are looking to extend this contract for 3 months as we go through our whole restructuring process and realigning the staff. Now, one of the things I will mention that as we are forming the administrative division of the organization, IT is something that is going to fall under Mr. Starnes. And so we'll be closely monitoring that and restructuring exactly how we do business within the organization. And that includes our IT services.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not yes, ma'am. Please don't think that I'm opposed to the extension, because I'm not.
I think it's a great question to have. I think it's a great.
Thank you. I do think that what you're doing to reorganize the staff is amazing. I'm totally in support of it. I've just recently been going through IT proposals and stuff myself, and it just was something that came up. I was also curious to know if the contract that we're extending, was it a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract? And with the changeover, are you looking to do a 3 or 5-year contract?
I think the contract's only 3-month extension for us to make.
No, I'm talking about the contract that we're extending. Was it a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract originally?
I think it was a 5.
It was originally a 3-year with 2 1-year extensions.
Okay.
Which have been exhausted at this point.
Okay, and when you change companies, are you looking to do another 3-year agreement?
I would defer to Ms. Malden on what her preference is. I don't know that we've necessarily
made a decision.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those were my questions.
All right, Dr. O'Halloran and then Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, I know we probably need to look into this more because of all the chaos we had at board meetings, trying to vote on our laptops. They basically became worthless to us, and we spent a lot of money on that. And I think we can do better, but I'm not sure who with.
That was it, Dr. O'Halloran?
That's it.
Okay, bro. Dr. Robinson, you have the floor.
Well, I was looking at the existing contract, David, and I was looking at P.17S. I guess Roman number 3. And I think in response to what Commissioner Odell was asking, it states that the vendor would make recommendation and assist CAT with technology purchases. And under that section alone, perhaps we can expand it to say specifically what that means and include some of the things that Commissioner Odell mentioned.
I think you're absolutely right. There's some areas of the contract that I think are wonderful, but then there's some language in the contract that kind of contradicts itself. So it makes it a little more of a challenge. So I think we can formulate a good solid contract that will allow us to take into consideration these, very valid points.
Yeah, because it states this service is included in the program.
Yeah, and that is exactly a good point, but also the exhibits kind of talk about existing things. So I think there's a number of areas that it should be a little clearer because we can find areas in the contract that seem very clear, and then you're able to go on to other areas where they say kind of. So I think in the instance of that, they'll certainly, if we say, hey, what's the best product to, we would like to make presentations, they'll make recommendations and sell, different kind of software. But from what I understood, Ms. Odell's thing being more looking at optimization of the system, kind of like, hey, that server is great, but if you did this and this, then that would optimize how fast your computer's running. Maybe I misunderstood, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And so my response was it's kind of a hybrid. They certainly will if we come to them and say, hey, we would love to have a virtual board, they may make a recommendation on software and stuff like that. But it hasn't been my experience that they're necessarily sitting in the background really looking at the analytics of our company and of the data that we're using and saying, hey, this is how you could optimize things better. So I don't want to kind of mislead anyone and make it sound like they're not making any recommendations. It's just, it seems like it's more on a specific software need kind of basis versus an optimization, if that makes sense.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may add, just know that this extension is just an effort to hold what we have so that we have some level of protection during this period. We are working expeditiously to come up with a recommendation as far as our IT. This is just an effort to preserve some level of protection. We are already taking steps to mitigate cost and efficiency with regard to how we do our IT services. Just even through my own onboarding and setup, I've come up with some very real opinions about what needs to happen in terms of our IT needs. And so know that this extension is just to hold what we currently have. We may not even need it for the full 3 months, but it's just an effort to hold what we have. We weren't trying to make any changes at this point. We were going to make the changes when we put our scope of services out for our RFP process, when we actually do solicit the firm that we'll be using for the long haul.
Thank you, Ms. Molden. Without any other questions being made, we have a motion on the table. So go ahead and do the roll call.
Yes, sir. Dr. O'Halloran,
Yes.
Mr. Cody,
Yes.
Mr. Emister,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Lakakis,
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
He said yes.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Stone,
Yes.
Ms. Odell.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chairman Jones.
Yes,
And unanimous, sir.
thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
moving to our last item on the action calendar, Diversity and Inclusion Needs Assessment Engagement Award.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is basically for an assessment of CAT's current baseline around diversity and inclusion. It will provide data and recommendations for us to utilize as we formulate our plans going forward in terms of our workforce and the customers that we serve. While technically this contract award is under my signature authority, this is something that we talked about during my interview process, a commitment to diversity and inclusion, and we felt like it was very important to engage the board on this matter and let the board know that we are honoring our commitment to promote diversity, engagement, and inclusion, and this is a first step in that process. The contract would be going in the amount of $16,500.
All right, motion for approval.
So move.
It's been moved by Dietrich Leggett
Seconded.
and seconded by Clinton Edminster. All right, any readiness or any questions to this? Hearing none, go ahead for the roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Dr. O'Halloran. I think he stepped away. Okay, Mr. Cody,
Yes.
Mr. Emister,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Lakakis.
Yes.
He said yes.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Robinson. Thank
Dr.
you.
Robinson?
Yes.
She raised her hand. Thank you. Ms. Stone,
Yes.
Ms. Odell,
Yes.
Dr. O'Halloran. Okay,
I'll go ahead and vote yes as well.
thank you, Chairman. Unanimous 8-0 with Dr. O'Halloran, but no vote captured.
Thank you. Action item calendar is now complete. Now we're going into our reports, our executive director's report. Ms. Malden, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this report is for information only.
Yes, ma'am.
So at 4:30 a.m. on my first day, June 29th, I was joined by the acting chairman, Commissioner Jay Jones, as well as the chief operating officer and former interim CEO, Michael Brown. We greeted and met with frontline workers as they reported for duty. It's been my experience that a lot of times the frontline may feel like they're the last to see and know. And for that reason, it was very important that that was one of my first acts officially as a CEO, to meet and greet with the frontline staff. And on that first day, I wore a custom t-shirt that said "Transit Nerds for Justice." You know, if it were not enough to be in the midst of a pandemic, the conscious and unconscious bias against African Americans in this country has been brought to the forefront. And while I did not speak for CAT at that time, I made that shirt so that the staff would know about my value system and my beliefs. And it was well received. So whether officially stated or not, we must recognize the racial and demographic makeup of our workforce and customer base and ensure that they know that they are valued and respected. As I moved into my tenure, we unveiled the SCORE plan, of course. We have talked about it, of course, in emails to the board as well as throughout the organization, and I've included it in my talking points with various media outlets and in front of the county commission. And just to remind, the SCORE is to stabilize and strengthen the agency's finances. C, care for employees, customers, and community. O, optimize operations. R, reimagine transit in Chatham County. And E, engage our board, employees, and stakeholders. And so SCORE is what's going to lead us to a brighter future, and it's a call of action for the entire staff. System development has been very active in helping us promote this internally, and we look forward to increased efforts in that regard. Before I officially started, I sent out a memo to all the employees, just kind of talking to them about my value system, and I've enjoyed meeting and greeting employees from all parts of the agency. I also hit the ground running outside of CAT. I've been a part of several meetings and they're highlighted in my written report, but I just want to hit just a couple of high points. We had an opportunity to participate in the MPC meeting where we heard information about several grants that CAT has been fortunate to receive. We received a bit of a stern warning that we need to kind of step up our efforts to obligate and spend the money, but we have a plan in place and we are on our way with that. We also had a call with the FTA Region 4 Administrator, Dr. Yvette Taylor. It was a very successful call. I've had many great success stories under the administration of Dr. Taylor, and I'm looking forward to transferring that relationship to Chatham Area Transit. And shortly after that meeting, we found out that we were going to be the recipient of a ferry grant in the amount of $1.2 million. Now, of course, while I can't take personal credit for that, kudos to Mike Brown and the team that put that grant application together. We are excited about the future of our ferry program and extending our ferry network to be a bit of a catalyst in the area of economic development and to be a driver in that region on the riverfront. Let's see. We also had a wonderful meeting with U.S. Congressional Representative Buddy Carter, where we thanked him for his support and encouraged him to continue to advocate for transit and to help us get some additional stimulus money down here because we definitely need it. We had a wonderful meeting with Georgia Power, where we talked about our electric bus program. Just to remind you, CAT has been the recipient of a NOLO grant that will fund electric buses and allow us to put those on the line. I just want to recognize Steve Boatwright. It was brought to my attention that he has been very active with that group and that he has done a wonderful job in representing CAT as we worked out the details of that particular project. I've been a part of several media interviews. There was a story on the front page of the Savannah Morning News. I really appreciate the efforts of the system development team that has put together several media interviews. We had the opportunity to maybe clarify some of the information that went out in our press releases, we were able to discuss the early closure of the early cutoff of the routes, as well as the early closure of our call center, and to make sure that the public was well aware of the changes in our service. We've had some changes internally. I was pleased to promote David Stearns, who was the procurement manager, into the role of Chief Administrative Officer. I was also pleased to, reassign the EEO officer position to Ms. Tondra Scott. And there are several other success stories that I think I highlighted in an email to the board. We've appointed Victor Kalan to the interim procurement manager. And we also had the departure of long-term CFO, Terry Harrison, and we appreciate her service and have appointed Ms. Gloria Royal to be the interim chief financial officer. And she too is a longtime employee, and we're looking forward to great things from her in that role as well. And then longtime maintenance employee David Flanders was promoted to parts and supply manager. So, and we appreciate his many years of service, and we are definitely looking forward to a lot more and a lot greater things from David in his new role. And so that's just kind of a brief overview of some of the things that we've been involved in. We have hit the ground running. The restructuring process is going to continue, and I do plan to put before the board an org chart that outlines the moves that are being planned. We will be presenting that to the board, if not in August, definitely no later than September. And so I've enjoyed engaging with all of you all, as well as the public, as we've kind of gone through this onboarding and honeymoon process, if I'm allowed to say that. And so I'm looking forward to doing a lot more and leading us to greater heights during this period. And that concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Molden. I don't know where it's going to be, so I'll see if it's mentioned somewhere in the reports later on. I'm turning it over to item number 7, unit update, information only, service delivery update from Mr. Michael Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'm going to talk about security measures we've made at our facilities. Then I'll talk about a little about our temperature checks and the hours that we have at our facilities to check everyone's temperature. Then I'll discuss a little bit about the changes in the hours in the call center and the ticket window. And before I will end talking about the service changes and fixed route and paratransit operations. And then I'll turn it over to Bryn Dice, so she'll give you some information on ridership.
All right.
So security changes, what we've done, a couple things we've done, well, more than a couple things. We have 24-hour security coverage at the ITC. The facility doors are secured by the officers at 12 a.m. until 4 a.m. They open back up. Executive offices are closed to visitors. CAT Central is closed to the public and visitors right now. What we're trying to do is lock down the facilities to keep everyone safe, both inside and out. Effective July 23rd, ITC entry to the executive office will be only permitted through the site doors via the lobby. The patio door will be egress only. CAT Central contracted security force will increase to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The officer pulse, we changed it from the lobby, just outside the lobby, to by the front gate. We put a tent up with a swamp cooler. We have a table set up for them, and we also have a cooler with ice and water for them out there. And the goal of that is to make sure we stop all vendors. We don't want any foot traffic coming into the facility in the yard, and also to stop the vendors so they can have temperature checks as well before entering the property. The vendors are allowed only on the property and be on a limited critical support function, that'd be fuel, parts, and things like that. Gwinnett Street is currently allowing the employees, let's see, that The storefront entry on Gwinnett Street is currently allowing entry to employees only via the access card, but will deactivate it and will be used for egress only. The front lobby will continue to be used for employee screening. And the points of entry for employees will be limited to 2 doors, the Ott Street and the operator's break room. 3 checkpoint stations will be set up for employee screening prior to entry. Those 3 stations are the main door, which is at Cat Central, is open for, we have screenings from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Ott Street door, screenings from 4 a.m., 12 a.m. And operator break room door, 4 a.m. to 12 a.m. These are, we have stations set up for anyone that comes into the facility for the first time has to have their temperature taken to enter the facility. The main office door will be locked at 6 p.m. and the entrance will be available through Ott Street door or the operator break room. Offices at the ITC, the office double doors, 4 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's the screening time. Moving over to the call center, with the change in the service hours, the call center, customer service will operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, down from 8 p.m. and weekday schedule will be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The ticket window will also be open for customer service at Joe Murray Rivers from the ITC from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the ticket window is closed on weekends. Moving over to our service changes, as you well know, you probably know by now, on July 20th, we reduced our service footprint to 10 p.m. We were running to about 12:30 a.m. in the morning. What we found, and I'll let Bren talk about that in a little bit, is that the ridership did not support staying out until 12:31 a.m. So the fixed route buses and mobility paratransit vehicles will cease to operate at 10 p.m. That is as of July 20th. We will continue to limit passengers on fixed route to 12 to 15 passengers, and on account mobility, no more than 3 passengers. We are still asking the public to only use our services for essential trips. As you all see, there's a spike in cases in our county, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep our operators and our frontline employees safe, and the employees, the customers safe as well. We discourage round trips of joyriding. Fare collection will remain suspended, as I mentioned earlier, on that you approved for another month. The goal is to monitor the COVID-19 cases in our county and the severity, and also until we get our barriers in place where we can protect our operators and employees, we will continue to run fare-free service. Passengers are also urged to wear masks. It's not mandatory, but we do urge them to wear masks or face coverings while riding our services. And we encourage, obviously, passengers not to ride if they're sick. These, again, like I mentioned earlier, these changes were made based on ridership data that I believe we sent out to everyone. And at this time, I will turn it over to our planning manager, Bryn Dice, so she can give you a little bit more information on our ridership. Bryn?
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I just wanted to bring to your attention the monthly ridership report for fixed route. There are a couple highlights that I wanted to make. One, as Mike alluded to, the after 10 p.m. decision. We researched what our ridership was doing after the June 15th increase in ridership, and we found that in the late evenings, we just weren't getting many riders at all. 1 or 2, 3 folks total on some of the routes. And we think that's really due to, obviously, people staying home. There aren't many places that are open past 10 p.m. right now. So the locations that the routes were going just didn't have any place for folks to go to. So that decision was made based on ridership, looking at the numbers from June 15th when we increased our service. We have also been in communication with the city about the DOT shuttle and when that will resume. As you know, that has not resumed currently. It will be part of their phased-in approach. And as y'all know, the city is still in phase 1. And so we're waiting to make that decision with the city. And you'll also see on page 1 of your ridership report that the passengers per hour has decreased as expected in the month of June. The month of May was 11.7 passengers per hour, and the month of June was 7.6. Our target historically has been 18 passengers per hour. With our reduced capacity, it makes sense for that to have gone down, certainly with the increase in service that happened in June. So nothing really surprised us, I don't think, with June, but we'll certainly keep looking and see what happens next. Thanks.
Thank you, Bryn. And I also like to add that the decision was made based on the data that Bryn mentioned, as well as consultation with the union leadership. Some of the facilities that are usually, that were open late at night start closing earlier. And so there really wasn't any need for us to continue to run service when some of the establishments were closing early. So that was part of the decision-making process as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on service delivery.
Mr. Chairman, I've got some questions.
Before you ask a question, Dr. Holloran had his hand, and then I'll go with you, Clinton.
Yeah, do we know what's happening with Savannah State? Are they coming back? Are they going to require the shuttle service this semester?
Yes, from the information that we have is they will have in-person classes this fall, and we've already made plans to run that service this fall. Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's at the new contract rate, not at the old one, I hope.
We have not, we're still trying to get with the leadership there, and that's pending. And hopefully we'll have some more information by, if not committee or governance, by the next board meeting on contract rate with SSU.
Okay, when does that contract expire? Is that up this year, or is that got a time left on it? Or is that a year to year? I don't remember.
Yeah, that was pretty much year to year. So we would have to, at CEO direction, negotiate a new rate. And I believe that's something that we have talked about the need to do moving forward, as you're well aware.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Michael Brown, what I'll do is I'll get in contact with the interim president and make sure she have a sit-down conversation with Ms. Molden. If you haven't already reached out to Ms. Molden.
That'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Any additional questions? I'm sorry, Clinton, it's on you, brother. I apologize. It's on you, brother.
Don't worry, Jay. Yeah, there's a couple things. It was really nice to see in the executive director report, kind of up near the top of this agenda, kind of all of the system reductions brought into one place. That was helpful for me to see, kind of like, okay, well, this is why, here's the data that's showing me why. And I think we had requested data in the governance meeting. It was nice to see it there as well. I would also add, taking that even a little bit further, making it more bite-sized, more conversational. It was a chunk of a paragraph, which is just kind of hard to remember. But if you could provide us with, just looking at the ridership report, I can now say that we've had a 53% drop in ridership, and so that's backed up with data. So, and I can remember that, I'll remember that, I won't forget it. The more bite-sized pieces, the better that we can be advocating for why we are making these service reduction changes. All right, so that's that. And then on one of my, I think this is such a wonderful visual for where we're going. The ridership graph, not really a graph, but the ridership table with the colors where green is good and red is bad. We clearly need to add more colors to this, because anywhere from 13.4 to 7.6 is the same shade of red, it appears. And I just think it's, the point of this table seems to be to visually tell you quickly how we're doing. And if we're gonna have colors on it, then we might need to update it, because I think it's fallen below what that's able to show us. And then do we have any way of tracking folks that are waiting for a bus that are not allowed to get on because that bus was full? Is there any way to track that? Because I know we've limited ridership on any given bus or capacity on any given bus, and I have heard some reports of folks waiting on a bus that either passes them by or does stop and says, we're full and keeps on going. Because I think that could show us, are we at capacity on some of these routes during certain hours of the day, specifically maybe Route 14. That's all I got.
So and to answer to that question, that would be something I double check with operations and Wendy and her staff. Usually when the operator does have to pass someone by, they will call it into control, and control will note that information. So I can get that information for you.
And we're looking at ways to automate that process as well. I followed up with our counterparts in Pittsburgh that utilize the same software that we utilize, but they've come up with a way to automate the process so that as we are having customers on the buses, we'll be able to tell real time utilizing our software whether we're at capacity so that we'll be able to make decisions. So we are looking into software solutions for that as well. And so hopefully I'll look forward to being able to report some findings on that as well.
Great.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any additional questions?
Okay, I have a question.
All right, Commissioner Stone, then Commissioner Odell.
Have we looked at our declining numbers compared to other systems our size? Obviously this is COVID related, this huge drop, but is that sort of the norm, or are we much worse than other communities our size, or are we better at this point than communities our size throughout the country?
Based on the information that I've seen, we're actually faring better than communities of similar size in terms of ridership.
The number of riders per hour is quite alarming.
It is, but again, transit across the world, not just the nation, but transit systems across the world are taking a major hit because of COVID. And we have worked tirelessly, and we're still going to continue to work to let the public know that transit is still a safe, viable, and efficient option for mobility. It's the case that communities are making all over the world. And so we do seem to be faring better than other cities, other systems of similar size. When I talk to people in the community, they talk about how they still, the ones that actually utilize the service, talk about how they still want to utilize the service and they still depend on the service. And so we just need to build on that and continue to trend those numbers upward. But we are actually trending ahead of other communities of similar size. I
would like to see some of those numbers, but
sure.
More to my point, we started on a decline before COVID, and I've been very concerned about our ridership and looking at other communities our size to see what they're doing to keep ridership steady or boost ridership. So I just want it to be noted from me as a board member that I've been watching the decline in these numbers. And at some point, how do we justify running a system? And I'm not speaking of COVID at this time, but I'm talking about moving forward when we do get back to some sense of normality. What are our numbers going to look like? Now is the time to be studying other areas, maybe pre-COVID, and seeing what they were doing that worked versus what isn't working, because for the last couple of years, our numbers have just been going down.
I understand, but I do have to respectfully say that the game has changed. So you can't really go pre-COVID because transit as we know it has changed. And
I guess what I'm saying here is using this time to sort of start to get our ducks in a row for when we transition out of the COVID problem to what we can be looking at, a vision for what we can be looking at to increase our ridership numbers. I mean, I understand the COVID thing. I'm just curious to know, when he just gave the numbers per ridership per hour, that's pretty scary.
Commissioner Stone, could you allow her to finish her statement so we can hear? I'm trying to hear what she's trying to
Yeah,
say.
I know, but I just want to make sure she understands what my true question is.
So if we allow her to finish it, and then if it's not, then come back at her if you could, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I do understand where you're coming from, and I share those same concerns. Honestly, I do. And I think that that's why we're recalibrating. That's exactly what SCORE even talks about. The optimization, part of the reason why maybe some of the numbers aren't where they are, it's a utilization thing. It's making sure that we're serving the communities at the right frequency, at the right places, and all of that. And we are taking the time to look at that. One of the things that I mentioned even during the committee meetings and whatnot is going back and looking at even some of the studies that have been done before, utilizing that data to make recommendations and inform decisions about how the population shift has impacted our service. So there are a lot of factors that impact how we go about providing the service. And those speak to the very things that we're working on even during this onboarding and transition process. I really, it is our goal that when we have this conversation, maybe even a year from now, that there'll be noted changes within the system, because there just have to be, because the county has evolved, it has changed, and so we've got to change with it in order to be a relevant piece of the mobility conversation.
Commissioner Stone, you have anything for it?
No, I mean, just she pretty much answered the question, but what I'm saying is, for the last 2 years pre-COVID, we have not been on a good track. So I just want to make sure that what she said, we use this time to be thinking about what our vision is going to be when we get past the COVID virus. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Thank you, Ms. Mulder. Commissioner Odell, you have the floor.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I've gotten a couple of calls from, one of them was from a pediatrician who has several patients whose parents work as bus drivers. And she was expressing some concern about the safety procedures that we're taking with respect to the drivers. Have we had the shields put up yet? And what exactly is our policy about wearing masks or not wearing masks, or what are we doing?
So go ahead, Bakar.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so Commissioner Odell, the shields have not been installed yet. We plan to have them all installed by the end of August. As you might imagine, when this all happened, every transit agency in America started ordering those shields. Now, we did order ours first, so that's going to help us out. And once they get here, it's not going to be a long process of getting them all installed. We've tentatively set a date for the end of August. If it can possibly be moved up, we absolutely, we'll move that date up. But the goal is to make sure that, obviously, like you said, we're doing everything we can to keep our operators safe. That's why we continue to go fare free, and we continue to have 50% capacity on our vehicles. We officially, our position is not that we require masks or face shields to ride our vehicles. We strongly advise that anyone that comes outside wears their face shields or uses our services, use some kind of face covering, but we do not officially require people to wear masks or face shields.
Okay, let me ask you this. Have you seen those misters that some of the schools are using to spray some sort of an airborne disinfectant to keep the rooms? Has anyone contacted us about selling those? Is that something that's optional for buses, or
Have you seen them?
Not only have we seen them, we've been using them for about 3 months now. That's what we use to disinfect the vehicles at night. This is called vinyl oxide, and it sprays, it fogs the whole bus. It takes about 5 minutes. And not to sound like a commercial here, but it supposedly it kills 99.9% of coronavirus and those sort of viruses. And so we not only we know about them, we've been using them now for a while.
Okay, can we put some information out that we're doing that?
Certainly, we can certainly have maintenance work with Patricia and her crew to get information out. I think we've already put that information out. I think we've been putting that information out for a couple months now, maybe longer, since March, I believe we have. But we can certainly embark on a hardier campaign with that particular information if there's some people that's not getting it, Commissioner Odell.
Yeah, that would be great. I think there's some people that have no idea that you're doing that. And that would be great. And if you could send me a one-sheeter that I could pass on to the physicians that have contacted me, that would be fabulous.
And we make sure that gets emailed to all the board members, please.
All the board members.
Can I get back? Should I tell the draw I went?
All right.
You know, and I don't know.
Commissioner Odell, hold just a second. I'm asking everybody, please put your mics on mute because we hear interrupt the conversation. Go ahead, Commissioner Odell.
And I don't know if there's thank you, I'm sorry. And I don't know if there is something that is available or will become available that we could install on the bus, because I'm not really sure how those big shields are going to impact the heat of the driver. Like, are they going to be inside a little box and like it's a sweat box now, or like, how is that going to work? Because I don't want the driver uncomfortable.
The shields are manufactured to allow for the flow, the airflow, along with the system. We can, once we get the specific information on the specs, I don't have that available at this moment, but I'd be happy to provide you some information on the shields. And so we're looking forward to getting them. Just another step we're taking to try to keep our drivers safe. But they will be able to, I guess, open and close the shields. So some of the responsibility will be on the operators themselves to make sure, or to ensure, that they're using those shields properly. So
okay.
So they can interact with the public should the need come up.
Okay.
And if I could add, Commissioner Odell, these shields are built by the bus manufacturer, so they are built for the vehicles. It's not something that someone else built, the retrofit. These were built by the manufacturer to fit perfectly with these particular vehicles that we have.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Michael, Dr. Holleran.
Yeah, I know another question was asked about masks, and obviously if the governor doesn't mandate it and the county doesn't mandate it, there's really not much choice we have, because we have no way to enforce a mask mandate. It can only be a recommendation at this point. But another question, with the new vehicles that we're ordering, are they going to be pre-fitted with these shields? I know we've got more paratransit vehicles and possible electric buses. That might not be a bad idea to fit them with the shields, or at least have them retrofitted so that it would be quick to adjust if we have another increase down the road.
Yeah, the new vehicles will come with the shields.
Good.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Any additional questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Leggett.
To answer part of Mr. O'Halloran's question or his apprehension, the mayor's order is going to stand as far as the face mask and with the mandate, and we're going to continue that, even though the governor does not want to continue a mask order, but we're going to continue in the city of Savannah. I'm not sure where the county stands with the mask ordinance, but in the mandate, but this is where our mayor is driving us to at this moment.
All right. Anybody else have anything? Appreciate it, Mr. Leggett.
Just the fact that the buses go inter-county, so a mask mandate, they put it on when they get to Savannah, take it off when they go to Georgetown. I don't know how that works. I guess we're stuck with no mask, but.
I've been on the bus and rode it myself, and when it went into the county areas, they don't take the mask off. They just keep it on and they just get off the bus. Most people in the outskirts, a matter of fact, I'm seeing more restaurants on the outskirts saying that in Pooler, Bloomingdale, wherever I've been, as far as they have the sign on the door, just like they have it in Savannah, where this organization believes in you wearing a mask before you come in that building. So whether the county does adopt it or the state adopts it, it's a point of reference. I think that it's good hygiene. If you walk out in public, you wear the mask. The Department of Public Health, Dr. Lawton said the same thing at our last county meeting. So I think
if only everybody believed that. I was around yesterday to a couple of places and the mask wearing was at best poor.
Well, I mean, there's places in Savannah where the masks are being piss poor.
That's what I mean. That's where I was. So.
You can't. All I can do is when I go out in public, I can make sure I protect myself, protect my family. We wear masks when we go out. And I encourage our drivers to do the same thing when they go out. Make sure they have their mask on. Shots out. Appreciate the mayor and everybody else on city council pushing that order. I can't force the issue in the county. Can't force the issue in the state. Can't force the issue in the United States of America either. But what we can do is, as far as when it comes to Chatham area transit, we can ensure that our drivers have the right PPE, our buses are being sanitized correctly. And since that was mentioned and Dr. Robinson has been mute, I thought she was going to mention this. We did hear some conversation in reference to some of our smaller vehicles, I guess our paratransit vehicles, not being sanitized as often as they should. And we don't even talk about it as often as we talk about the fixed route. So I want to make sure that that's part. I see you, Dietrich. I want to make sure that's part of the conversation and discussion as well. When we start in future references, when we talk about fixed route being done, we also talk about our paratransit and any other fleet operations that we have out there. And in the early discussion, the problem about transportation is this: if a person does not have a destination, they're not going to use transit. Just like you're not going to get in your car if you don't have a destination to go to. So if destinations are limited in our community, then guess what? People are not going to be on the streets. People are not going to be participating with transit. And that's just a hardcore fact that we have to deal with. If we want to see transit, as far as even with ourselves and our own personal vehicles, we have to see destinations open up. And until destinations open up in our community, transit will be at a low time, at an all-time low. Dietrich, you have the floor, brother.
Okay, I have a couple quick questions. And we're talking about the cleanliness of the smaller shuttles and cars. Are we sure that the fog that they're using is being effective in the entire car? And that's one question. And my other question is, are we still utilizing the airport shuttle? And if so, how many passengers are we using in that per hour?
Okay, Alderman Leggett, to answer your first question, we are still using you asked if we were using the fog on the
smaller vehicles.
Yes, we are. And I did see an email earlier that there was a breakdown on a possible cleanliness of the bus. We circle back with maintenance. We have the crew there at night, and I'm not sure if it was a vehicle just slipped through the cracks or whatever, but we reiterated with the maintenance director how important it is, and him with his supervisors to spot check these vehicles and make sure they're going out. They have a checklist. They're wiping down all the surfaces. They're spraying the vinyl oxide. They're mopping the vehicles with double bleach. So I'm not sure why that one vehicle slipped through. It may be an isolated incident, but we did address that. As far as we are still running the shuttle, the ridership, I don't have it up right now. Bryn, do you have it up?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Yep, if you look at the last page of your monthly ridership report for June, the ridership for the month for the airport shuttle was 37. And keep in mind that that didn't start until June 15th.
Before
So
you,
that's a 15-day ridership instead of a 30-day.
Ms. Brand, when you say 37, can you clarify what that means?
Yes, sir. 37 passengers rode the airport shuttle in the month of June, and that was in those 2 weeks.
Total for the whole month of June for those 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's
And
low.
do you have a breakdown? Do you have a breakdown? Well, flights are low too, so I mean, I can expect that, but do you have a breakdown of hours when people are flying out?
I don't
You don't
have
have
that
to
in
give it
front
to
of
me
me,
right
but I
now.
can pull it up. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
You don't have to give it to me now, but I want to make sure that you have the breakdown on hours to see when people are flying out.
Yep, I'll pull it up for next month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And did you answer all the Mike? You got your Dietrich? Cool. Mike, my question to you is this, Mike. We need to, between now and next board meeting, I need some kind of matrix to ensure that we don't have any slips in the crack. Best practices always tell us if there's 50 vehicles, then it should be 50 forms. If you only have 49 forms, then you realize a vehicle slipped through the crack. And so my thing is, we can't, and this is not a personal persecution of you, but we cannot afford any slips in the crack, because that one slip in the crack can hold a whole agency hostage because of a COVID-19 incident. So if we can, not just the overnight cleaning of that, but the changing out of positions, meaning when you drop one client off, what's the procedure before you pick another client up? Even when it comes to, as far as your schedule is concerned, are they scheduling, if they're giving enough time in between schedules to ensure that bus gets cleaned up before the next patron gets on the bus? And so, and I'm talking about your smaller vehicles now. Even with your fixed route, thank God we haven't had any issues as of yet with fixed route, but what is our cleanliness plan in between, I guess, full routes from beginning to end? All these are kind of things that I think that we need to start really looking, invest into. We should already have some kind of conversation in reference to these things, but always constantly evolving the conversation of what we should be doing better should always be at the forethought of what you got going on. So I appreciate what you've done, Mr. Brown, but let's make sure we continue to think further and further and further. Yes, Ms. Molden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll be happy to know that our response team has been working with a law firm that actually helped to write the COVID guidance for APTA, the American Public Transportation Association. And we are currently in the process of writing procedures and best practices for the agency to utilize, incorporating a lot of the things that we're already doing, and then incorporating additional information that they are recommending that we do to take our coverage to the next level. So we are already right there with you in terms of trying to ensure that we have the best quality assurance in place and that we have processes and procedures that cover all of those issues.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Clinton, did you have your hand up? You had something?
Yeah, I just want to redirect attention again. Thank you, Brent, for bringing this up about the airport. It's down 94% absolute numbers, but down 40% as a percentage of passengers for revenue hours, taking into account the reduced hours that we're providing. I understand kind of the point of the 100X. I do also know that it is our most expensive route. I also know that it is providing a kind of a critical link between the city, downtown, and the airport. That's just very low. 37 people in 15 days is not a lot of people. And I think if we could be using that, when I hear that somebody on Route 14, was standing there for like 2 hours because 3 buses passed them by, that's no fun. And when we've got 175 hours of bus availability on a route that is only picking up 37 people in 15 days, I just feel like there's an opportunity there to maybe move some of the chips around. I also want to make sure that we continue that. The airport one is it's really only providing access to like one location. And so we would want to make sure that we are in very comfortable speaking terms with the airport commission on that, if we were to make any changes to it. But
All right.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edminster. Ms. Malden, can you do me a favor going into committee meeting? I know it's a short notice, but go into committee meeting, can you get with our senior planner and give us a lot more latitude as far as information is concerned in reference to the airport route? What things we can change, what things we don't want to change, because we also don't want to disrupt that 36 people. One of them could be a CEO of a company and make it real rough for us as well. So I do want to make sure and I do hear what Clinton is saying, as far as, mitigating to see if we can redirect those hours, but let's do a deep dive on that. And I do see your hand, Mike.
That's all I'd like. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mike, you have the floor, brother.
And I just wanted to say, to put it in perspective, last year, with 296 hours, we had 547 passengers on that 100X. And that was a 40% decrease from the year before, where we had almost 1,000. So I just said that to kind of put it in perspective. It kind of lends to what Clinton said and the need for a deep dive into that route. So.
All right, so that will be the subject on all committee reports, please. All committee reports. All right.
Okay.
Commissioner Stone, before you go, Mike had his hand up before you, and I'm gonna let you go next. Mike, you have the floor, Dr. Holleran.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about this for at least 3 years, that shuttle service has been a dog for a long time. And we really need to, like you said, do a look into it, because those 37 passengers in June cost us $19,000 to take to the airport. And I would be surprised if the CEO couldn't afford a shuttle, like a limo, to the airport. I think it's local people that fly in, no vehicles, walk around town, and we're servicing 6 hotels. And that 37 could be families of 4 or 5. So the actual fills may not be 37 exactly.
All right.
But 19,600 is money we could probably use in a better spot.
All right.
That's all from me.
Thank you, Mike. Commissioner Stone, you have the floor.
I'm just going to reiterate what Dr. O'Halloran just said. We've been talking about this route for a long time. It's been on the decline. And I think now is the time we've got to take this seriously and look at this route and see where we can best utilize our buses and our people.
Thank you. Anybody else has anything to add to that? So we will have this definitely on the committee reports, please. So we can have a deep dive discussion on that. So Ms. Bryn, you just got your first major assignment on this board, as far as directed from the board. Ms. Malden, you have the floor.
May I respectfully request an extension? And the reason why I'm respectfully requesting this extension is, as you know, we're in the process of looking at the data that has been provided to us in some of our prior reports and going through the COA process. And so as we are looking, as a part of the COA process, we are also taking a look and making evaluations and whatnot with regard to our route. And we would like the opportunity to bring that information as well before the board in terms of our finding. I think in making decisions, yes, we need to look at the data as it stands today, but I think it needs to accompany some analysis regarding the demographic and population shifts and trends in terms of how riderships or peaks and valleys and things like that. And I'm not sure that in 30 days, we would be able to come back with a report that really does it justice. And I understand that this is something that has been an issue for months, maybe years before now, but I'm asking for an additional 30 days since we're hitting the ground running, so that we can come back with something comprehensive that empowers you all with the information that you need to support a recommendation.
But Ms. Malden, you know, I try my hardest not to be in deliberation and quorum with you, but you know, Doctor, and I don't know how much leverage that 19,000 actually represents that Dr. O'Halloran said, but if it's $19,000, you're asking me to put $19,000 on hold for deliberation. And I'm just giving you the language because this is a recorded call and everything like that. I want to make sure that this is what we're asking for.
I don't afford it.
But I'm sorry, I thought you were asking me a question.
Ms. Helen, Commissioner Stone,
No, I just made a comment. I don't think we can afford to sit here and wait for that kind of money. And especially if we've got buses that people are standing out in this severe heat and they can't get on number 14 because it's full. And we've got a bus running out to the airport. I think we need some information as soon as possible.
Now, Ms. Malden, and I don't really want to go too deep into detail about it, but I do think that I think there's some history between the 100X that I don't want to quote it right here, but I thought we voted it down a while back, but I don't know how it continue to have services. And I think Beverly, if I can get with Beverly or Dion to see when we did or if we did any kind of action toward that, that will actually lend some color to that conversation.
Right.
And I'm not against what you're saying, Ms. Malden. I just want to make sure that what we do is clear. Go ahead, Ms. Malden. You have the floor. I'm sorry.
No, I don't want it to be turned. I don't want it to be slanted that I want us to continue to waste $19,000. But I do also respectfully believe that just as we may not be able to afford the $19,000, we also cannot afford to make a decision based on incomplete data in conclusion. And I think in the long run, we could cost the agency more money if we don't have our decisions be informed by the appropriate data and reasoning process.
Rather than give me a full analysis of the whole airport shuttle, can I just get between January, I guess March and now, what the numbers look like?
Sure.
And then any other kind of questions we discover in committee meeting, we can readdress it from that point. How about that as a common courtesy? And I'm not asking for this so we can ask for a vote at the end of the month to take the shuttle out. I'm asking so we can start building this conversation because this has been discussed for several years in reference to the shuttle. So I do want to make sure that my colleagues are satisfied as well as those people who want to send color to lend color to anything else. All right. Yes, sir. Clinton, you have the floor, brother.
Yeah, I'd also I support Bakara, Ms. Malden in maybe giving that the time it needs to make sure we've got the right information. It's a conversation we need to do. We can afford the $19,000 because there are people still writing that. It's just not a lot at all. I also think that's one of our furthest routes out. That's a relationship we've got with the Airport Commission and a whole bunch of other folks out there. So we want to make sure that we are bringing them into that discussion, make sure that we can make the right decisions moving forward. I kind of brought up the issue after Bren brought it up. And I think that, if we have to wait 2 months, I'm fine with that. But I also agree that if we could get some preliminary information on maybe I'm not really sure what that would look like, I'd be happy with that as well.
All right, thank you. And I'm gonna lead to your expertise. I just want to make sure I gave that synopsis to you, Ms. Malden. All right. Anybody else had anything else to share? Because I'm cool. So let me find my agenda because we got.
Yeah, where are we now?
We got kind of locked in there. Miss Patricia, it is on you. Need to take your mute off, Miss Patricia.
Patricia, there you go.
There you go, Miss Patricia.
There you go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Lots of great discussion this morning. Okay. Our system development team did produce another great board report for you of our recent activities. I will not go through the entire report, but I do want to highlight a couple of things because there has been conversation around some of those activities. One of them is, well, I'll get to it a little later in my report, but starting off, like if you would kind of go through our system development report with me just a little bit, in a continuing effort to communicate with our customers, staff, stakeholders, and others during this pandemic, we have produced a number of press releases and media advisories. As a matter of fact, for the month of June, we produced a total of 13. This is the most in any one month since I have been here. Usually June is a busy month, but because of the pandemic, the arrival of our new CEO, we produced a total of 13 media advisories or news releases about our services. I want to give a kudos to our communications manager and publications editor for this remarkable accomplishment. We really do appreciate all the hard work that Eric Curl is doing in helping us get information out to the community about our services. We produced a number of signs, customer flyers, and posters informing employees about our safety measures and policies. In your board packet, we have a couple of visuals for you so that you can see what those rider alerts look like. We get out on the ITC platform and we post them out at the bus bays so customers can see that information. We also repeat a lot of this information in electronic communications with our customers, individuals who have signed up for our weekly e-news updates. We also post the information at our ticket window inside the ITC. Also in our board packet, as I mentioned, those 13 media advisories and press releases that we also share with all of you. We have examples of some of those in the board packet as well. And to that number, like I said, with the arrival of our CEO, Ms. Malden, we worked hard to promote her arrival. And we started doing that from day one. She mentioned that early morning meet and greet of bus operators. We posted that information on social media and elsewhere to basically get information out in the community that this is an administrative change for CAT. And we're off to a great start with a very seasoned veteran taking the helm at CAT. In our board report, again, there's examples of that early morning event that Ms. Malden shared with our chairman and with our chief operating officer. It was a very, very successful event. And as I said, we posted it every place that we could. In addition, on July 10th, she attended her first Chatham County Commission meeting. Again, we basically posted that information on our social media channels, just so that the community, our stakeholders in the community, would know what's going on at CAT. Other items I would like to highlight in our report quickly includes our plans to move forward with mobile ticketing as soon as we can. The system development team, we basically hope to complete this project once we resume charging fares. We are still making progress with this initiative, which you all approved last December. We heard from our customers that this was something that they wanted to do. Basically, having a mobile ticketing service where they could use their smartphones to board the buses and purchase their tickets, that will help us have less immediate contact, and with cash handling by customers and drivers. And so this is an important innovative tool that we need to move forward with as soon as we can. One of the key obstacles for us will be training of our bus operators and supervisors while we're in this pandemic, but staff is talking to our safety department and operations department, and they are working out a plan. Regarding the various media and communications that went out, several of our news releases and media advisories also made some of our trade publications, such as APTA's Passenger Transport. The article on Ms. Malden ran in Passenger Transport, Mass Transit Magazine, Metro Magazine, and we even made her hometown newspaper, the Birmingham Business Journal. So again, our news, our CAT news is not only being reported locally, but nationwide, because we are really churning out the public information. Some of the other highlights that I want to mention, we have produced a fantastic video of what our maintenance department, what we are doing to keep customers safe. So we will send that link to you all along with the other information. Plus, that link was listed in our weekly e-news that went out earlier this week. And all of you are on that mailing list. If you're not getting those e-news updates, you might want to check kind of your junk mail folder, because sometimes mass emails get held up in those types of folders. But we produced a really wonderful video, really short and sweet. It's on our YouTube channel. You can access it by going to our website and clicking on YouTube, and you will see it. So we put that information out. And as Mr. Brown stated earlier, as soon as we started talking to colleagues across the country, and we started using best practices for how we should clean the buses during this pandemic, we started churning out that information in our media advisories and our news releases, because we want people to feel that it's okay to use public transit in this community. And we also are working on basically what we're calling a post-COVID campaign, where we are working with our marketing firm and brainstorming about other ideas that we can do to encourage people to come back to public transit in our community. So our marketing manager, our marketing and business development manager, Michael Conley, is taking the lead on that. And so we have some really good looking graphics that we are going to share very, very soon as we kind of launch that part of phase 2 of this COVID situation. But as I mentioned, there's a really wonderful, cool and informative video on our YouTube channel that basically summarizes what we are doing to keep those buses clean. So I encourage you all to check that out when we send you that link. And also in our report, of course, is a list of TV broadcasts about CAT, print broadcasts, our print media coverings, just to kind of give you all an example or an idea of who's covering CAT and what they're reporting about in our agency. So that's why we include that every month, as well as the social media, so that you can see what kind of traffic we get on our social media channels. The coverage or the post on Miss Malden, they were kind of the most favorable post. And so we received lots of feedback from the information that we put out there regarding her arrival and some of the projects she was working on. And just yesterday, she did mention in her report other media interviews that we have set up. Yesterday, she had a media availability that we pitched last week to the local press. And we had 3 of the TV stations, as well as a print reporter who participated. And we will share links to some of their articles in case you all didn't see those reports. She did an excellent job. And then you probably saw the Savannah Morning News article that appeared in the paper last Friday. And so that was a wonderful article as well. So that was both online as well as in print format. And so as soon as we completed that request, we wanted to pitch it to other media. And basically it was time to get her out there to talk with local reporters about her vision for CAT and to help us clarify some misinformation that had gotten out. And she did a fantastic job. So that, I know I went through that fairly quickly, but I just wanted to kind of hit the highlights and share this information with you all. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, Alderman Leggett, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Last year, Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryan brought it to CAT's attention that there were some outdated dot posters in the city garages. If you notice that there still have been not updated as of today. Additionally, if I was a visitor to Savannah, how would I know that the dot services would have been temporarily suspended or paused?
Well, we have sent out several media advisories and placed information on our website. I was thinking that we had taken care of all of those posters, replaced them, because we work with the city mobility office on that. But if you are aware of a specific garage where you that we need to go back and revisit, we'll be happy to do that because we need to update the information. But I distinctly remember us ordering new publications, new posters when we made a change in the service, and we got those posted, but we could have missed one. Our crew could have missed one. So we'll be happy to go back and revisit.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Clinton, you had something to add?
Yeah, on that same vein, I never really thought about this. I know that's the contract we've got with the city. Who does that? Whose responsibility is it to market the DOT shuttle and provide signage for it? Because I do remember maybe a year ago, I ran into somebody from Sean Brandon's office who was putting a sticker or updating one of the DOT shuttle totem poles, I guess. And I think the totem poles are at least the one that I've seen in front of the Bean over on Park Avenue. As far as I know, it looks like, nothing's changed about it. Maybe a bag over it, or just like, this isn't running right now. I'm not sure what that would look like. But I also don't know if that's our responsibility or if that's the city's responsibility.
About a year ago, they asked us to kind of transition some of the marketing services over to us because their private contractor or their contract with that private person, they were going to end that. And so we did agree to take over the website and some of the other marketing, kind of less expensive marketing needs. But when we ran into kind of the more expensive ones, like who was going to pay for the posters and things like that, we had to have a conversation with them because we didn't have the funds in our budget, and they paid for those. Or when there's a reprinting of the DOT publications, they have recently paid for those because they order such a large number that goes to all of the hotels and the Visitors Bureau, and they maintain a warehouse. They still do that part of it where hotels can basically just call and get replenished on their stock. So it's still sort of a shared partnership because we're still sort of in transition. And there are expenses that they have that our marketing budget, cannot cover.
All right. All I'm gonna say to that is when I asked about the marketing budget last month, I asked everybody on the board, I asked everybody if it's more money we need to put into the marketing budget. Nobody, we got the extra we got, but everybody was content with the little extra we got. That was a time we could have actually asked for more money. And I was really pushing the issue. And I know I asked more than one time because I know we need more money in the marketing budget because we're in the day of age of tech. You got the battle between technology and you got the battle between paper. You still got a lot of people who still want to see it on paper, putting the fill in their hand. My dad won't pick up MapQuest, but he'll go and get a United States map and fold it out in front of the car and look at it as if it was 1976. But then you have me who I go on Waze, and Waze gives me that same direction. You still have intergenerational conversations still going on in our community, and we have to be able to meet the demands on all those different levels. So, me and Ms. Malden gonna have a long conversation about this between now and her fourth week, because she's been in her third week for 3 weeks. Her fourth week, me and her gonna have that conversation about this because it's very important that we get this communication out there. And it's very important we don't have outdated information out there as well, because I do see bus stop signs that have the little piece of paper on it and the paper's torn. Who's responsible for going back out and making sure that advertisement is done correctly and making sure the schedules are out there updated correctly? So this is a lot of leverage, and I don't know whose privy it actually falls under, but these are things that we need to be discussing openly, and in committee meeting, we're gonna make sure we address some of these things. I appreciate it. I'm gonna turn it over to my finance person. Ms. Gloria, you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
All right, you have the floor, Ms. Gloria. Go ahead and give us our finance report. This is Ms. Gloria, everybody.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. The month-to-date and year-to-date June 2020 financials presented today does not include year-end transaction adjustments. We should receive the information to finalize these entries within the next couple of weeks, and this information will be provided in the year-end audited financial report. The revenues for the month ending June 30th are ahead of budget $7,343,877 and over budget year-to-date $6,231,530. The revenues over expenditures year-to-date are $8,588,658. In your facts and findings summary, the year-to-date overage is incorrectly stated as $8,071,180. It should be $8,588,658 as listed in the revenue and expenditures statement. This overage is primarily due to the recording of the CARES Act funds that we are anticipating receiving. Our accounting records are on an accrual basis where revenue is accounted for when it is earned. We have requested the CARES funds based on operating reimbursements earned for eligible expenses during fiscal year 2020. The remaining funds will be recorded July and August during the periods in which we will anticipate having eligible reimbursable expenses. If we were not receiving the CARES Act funds, our revenues would be under expenditures for the month of June, $278,937. However, due to receiving the funds, we are not under budget, and we have revenues of $722,418 over expenditures year to date. Our CARES Act grant, along with the super grant that includes multi-source fleet replacement and ITS, have also been submitted, and we are awaiting review and approval. And as Ms. Malden stated earlier, she does have a relationship with the Region 4 FTA, so hopefully that relationship and staff's hard work will get our funds here shortly. Thank you. That ends my report.
I appreciate it, Ms. Raw. Do we have any questions for Ms. Raw? All right. Wonderful report. We're looking forward to hearing more from you, Ms. Raw, and thank you for being available for us today.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. With that being said, we're going into executive session for personnel and potential litigation matters. Can I get a motion for us to go into executive session?
So moved.
It's been probably moved by Commissioner Stone, and who seconded?
Second.
Cody.
All right. Mr. Cody, Dietrich Cody seconded for me. All those in favor? We can just, we don't have to do a roll call. All those in favor with the motion, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now go into executive session. Go ahead and prepare us.
Okay, yes, sir.
Beverly,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. If you like, since Mr. Takis is here, I can just step out of the room and you
Okay,
can.
Or I could call him on his cell phone.
Okay, you call him on the cell. Okay, I just want to get that straight. They're going.
Not a problem. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
we're going to break out.
the time is 12:09 and we will reconvene at 12:12. So that gives us 3 minutes to get this together. Thank you.
So now we're all gonna get out of this and come back in on something else?
No, ma'am.
Stay right here. Beverly's got this.